Hi everyone, I'm Pierre from the Web Scraping Club. With me there's Tamas. Hi Tamas, how are you?
Hello, all good. How about you, Pierre?
Fine, thank you. Thanks for having me with this Kameleo webinar. I'm glad we can speak about the challenges we are facing in the web scraping industry. That while we're waiting in our audience, let's talk a bit more about you, what you do, how's the role of Cameleo CEO, what's going on.
Yeah, good idea to wait 1 or 2 more minutes until everybody arrives. So, hello everybody, I'm Tamas. Some people call me Tommy, you can call me whatever of these two options. I'm a co-founder of Kameleo and I'm a software engineer as well. So, I participated in the development of the core functions of our product service. So, I'm pretty familiar with everything. So, later on this webinar, I will also make some demo so I can showcase Kameleo. About 4 years ago, we had a client who we helped a lot with browser automation, and my co-founder came up with an idea on some advanced features on Kameleo to automate Kameleo itself and the browser. And so it was the shift towards web scraping. And only in the past year, I started to learn a lot more about web scraping. I talked to several people, and this is when I met you, Pierre. And we had several discussions, and we decided that today we are going to share a piece of experience with the audience. So that's about myself. One thing I would like to encourage everybody in this webinar to write questions on the chat or on the questions board. And at the end of the webinar, Pierre or me will try to answer everything. So thank you, Pierre.
Thank you. Okay, while we are waiting, I talk also about myself a little. I'm Pierre. I write the Web Scraping Club, which is a newsletter that started 2 years ago, more or less. And of course, we talk about web scraping. This is why, because I started my career in web scraping 10 years ago, and it was a peculiar topic where you could not find information about in a centralized place. There was a sort of lack of information around, and while I've co-founded then Data Boutique, which is my actual company, it's a marketplace for web scripted data, I decided to make also a sort of educational newsletter about web scraping. And it's going quite well, and I'm glad that it is helping people in understanding better what's happening when doing scraping, what are the challenges, and so on. So, great.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
one thing I can
yeah,
really tell that the web scraping club is very good. This is how I discovered you, and this is how we contacted you. I really learned a couple of things from your messages. So
thank you, too kind. So, think we can start. I think we can start. So, uh, basically, what we'll see today. We'll see today a brief history of web scraping, how web scraping started from a request-based scraping and now is slowly transitioning to a browser-based scraping because of more and more challenges we need to face today. Also, talking about challenges, how anti-attack browser can help us solve some of these challenges in most advanced anti-bot solution against most advanced bot solution when in some websites that are particularly difficult to scrape. We'll have also a great demo by Thomas where we understand better how Cameleo works. And as Thomas before said, a Q&A session where we'll try to answer many of the questions you'll make during this webinar. So, as said before, I started web scraping 10 years ago. And web scraping is old as the web itself, because the web is a flow of information, and this is impossible to gather, to extract this information from the flow of the web without doing web scraping. But web scraping in these 10 years changed a lot, and I wanted to share with you some of my experience in this field. When I started with the first website I was trying to scrape, it was enough to write some curl scripts without even changing the headers of the request. And well, it was working. It was working also on websites like Zillow or Trulia that today are heavily protected by antibots. But today the web is much more different. And I think because on one end, websites are more and more complex. We have dynamic content, we have JavaScripts, we have audio, video, media that are need to be shown. And on the other hand, there's much more information about web scraping. There are more and more people doing web scraping today than it was 10 years ago. Think about all the sneaker bots, all the price comparison tools, all the SEO tools for understanding keywords on websites, and last but not least, also AI companies. They all need data that comes from web scraping. So the website, since they've seen this wave of scrapers in these years, they started to protect themselves. At first, by rate limiting the request for the same IP, and that's why we have proxies. But then also by injecting some JavaScript code or challenges by antibot to force the scraper to use browser to see the full website data that needs to be scraped. And this has complicated the toolkit of a modern web scraper. In fact, we have several tools for every situation we face. As mentioned before, we have proxies for avoid rate limiting of the requests from the same IP, but also to avoid being blocked when we make our request, when we make our scraper run from data center. That's why we have residential proxies, or even mobile proxies for even a more unblockable IP, for having a more unblockable IP. Then, of course, we have browserless scraping frameworks like Scrapy for all the websites that are not protected by antibots. But of course, these kind of frameworks help you to manage all the settings you need to set for for the repetition, all the settings you need to set for managing your scrapers, like the throttling of your request, the headers, the pause and resume of your scraper. So this is basically the plain vanilla scraper written in Scrapy or frameworks like that. For instead websites that are protected by antibot, or they have JavaScript inside that needs to be rendered for seeing the data we need to use some browser automation tools, maybe Playwright, Puppeteer, Selenium, and this is basically something that can help against antibots. But ultimately, in the past 1 or 2 years, even this is not enough. We need to add to our stack anti-detect browsers like Kameleo for bypassing the harder antibot solution. Do you want to add something to this
I wanted
stack?
to ask a question.
Yeah.
So, like, You mentioned the headless scraping frameworks, and you mentioned the browser automation tools. Can you differentiate or compare them cost and performance wise? What is your experience?
Well, yes, that's a great question because it's always a trade-off between efficiency and power of the solution. Because, as mentioned, headless, browserless frameworks like scraping work extremely well for websites that don't have any protection. While we need to use it's a obliged solution to go to browser automation tools like Playwright, but it is as a cost because when you need to set up a virtual machine for browser automation tool, well, since you need to load a window browser and and also you need to show this window on the screen because if you run your Puppeteer or Playwright in headless, probably the antibot detects this and blocks you. Well, this means that the machine must be much more powerful, and it comes to cost even 10 times more than a machine you will use for scraping. And also, the second thing is that this Playwright or Puppeteer solution, they don't scale very well. They don't handle the concurrency. So not only they are more expensive, but the scraping time for your scraper is much more longer than a traditional scraping solution. So it's a price to pay for avoid being blocked by antibots. Uh, so let's see anti-detect browsers. And I think here the most entitled to talk about anti-detect browsers is Tamas.
Yeah, so Kameleo is an anti-detect browser, and I try to introduce it to you. Originally, anti-detect browsers were created for multi-accounting and used by affiliate marketers. But there are two major feature sets that is very useful for web scrapers as well. One is that actually we are shipping browsers designed for using real fingerprints. It means you can emulate different types of devices without having any IP leak or location leak. So your whole browser fingerprint will be consistent. And from the aspect of web scraping, it helps you to bypass anti-bot detection systems. So as Pierre said, the price may increase, but there are cases when you must use an anti-detect browser in order to have a valid browser, so the website sees your browser as a valid user, and the scraping can be done and can't be done without any other tool. The next feature set is the profile management. So basically, affiliate marketers get a separated sandbox environment for all their called virtual browser profiles, and they can reload their profiles later, continue the work, share it with their coworkers. But from the aspect of web scraping, this is something like you might already know from, for example, from Playwright framework. It's like the persistent context. It is very useful if you would like to scrape data which is behind the login wall, because you don't need to handle all the painful logins with two-factor authentications. You can just simply reload profiles that is already logged into a certain website, and you can do the scraping which is behind the login wall. I would like to also showcase a real life use case with Kameleo. We can jump to the next slide. Yes, it's basically one of our clients who was managing LinkedIn messages. He was sending like thousands of messages on LinkedIn, but unfortunately there is a limit how many messages they can send during one day. And they looked around the solution and they realized it is cheaper for them to utilize Kameleo and and send out the messages from multiple accounts. And as the years passed, they started to manage more than 1,000 profiles on LinkedIn. And then they realized that they can actually control the browser with Playwright and do a lot of work automatically. And so they don't have to do repetitive tasks manually, just the most important things that the business require. Everything's growing and this setup is working for them. And in this webinar, later parts, we will try to focus more on the web scraping aspects, but this browser automation that this client was doing is very interesting use case for anti-detect browser users. So I think this is it.
Well, that's fascinating. Thank you, Tamas. So let's try to recap from what Tamas said. What are the difference between using Playwright with a traditional browser rather than an anti-detect browser? As we said before, the web has changed very much, and browser themselves changed, and they need to show to the websites a lot of information about the running environment where they are based, where are running on, because every website need to perform correctly on many devices, many operating system. Think about tablets, smartphones, mobile, PC, servers, and so on. So the website need to know this information to render perfectly the websites to the current device. But this information can be also used by antibots to know more about the running environment of your scraper. And so they can raise some red flags if they notice something that is not really working for them. As an example, if you're running on a data center, probably the antibot will know that there's no audio and video device connected to the server, or also that the WebGL renderer is a particular one, since a data center doesn't need a GPU to work. So let's see together two examples I've shared with the Web Scraping Club that really focus on these aspects. In the example one, I use another anti-detect browser to bypass Cloudflare because I started with Playwright and plain vanilla Chrome, running the scraper on a Unix data center, but this solution was not working. So I tried to change every single parameter of this anti-detect browser to understand what was not working, what was the parameter I need to change for make it work. And then I found out that there were two main reasons. As mentioned before, there were no audio and video devices. So I fake it, one video device and one output. Then also I changed the WebGL renderer. So then after changing these settings, it worked. And this was on the Lab 36 article on the Web Scraping Club. Then also on the Lab 37, I used Kameleo. And the nice part of this was that I didn't need to change anything because I set up a user profile based on if I remember correctly, it was a macOS X solution on a consumer grade device, and Kameleo changed my fingerprint of the browser, making it more coherent for the whole execution of the scraper. And so with this profile, I could bypass Cloudflare without becoming crazy in finding out what was not working. So let's see how it works for real by the hand of Tamas with his real life demo.
Yes, thank you. I will share my screen as well. Just a moment.
In the meanwhile, I'm just answering the first question that arrived. Since it is, how did the client combine Kameleo with Playwright? Well, we are just answering
Yeah,
now with this demo.
this demo will absolutely showcase this. Before I jump on the demo, I would like to create a small poll and ask you, what programming language are you familiar with mostly while you are doing web scraping? While you are answering the poll, I can tell about myself. I'm mostly familiar with .NET and JavaScript. For my web scraping project, I use JavaScript, but Pierre asked me to use Python in this demo because the audience of the web scraping club is mostly using Python. So let's see the results. Yes, as I can see, Python is winning by far. 93% of the audience is selecting it. Some answers are still coming in, but I think we can share the result and then I can start the demo. One thing I note, I'm not fully familiar with Python, so if you see any glitch on the demo, I'm really appreciative for that. I will use, can you confirm, Pierre, that you screen my screen? I'm going to use PyCharm. Okay, thank you. So for the first demo, I will just run a simple Playwright code without Kameleo, where we are visiting actually a website that has a very good anti-bot detection system. Probably this was featured in the lab as well. And you will see the limitation regular Playwright has. So I started the code, it visited the website of Herald, but once it clicks one item in the menu, the browser is blocking us, so we cannot continue scraping because it realizes we are using some automated browser. And at the first part of the demo, I will showcase how we can bypass this with Kameleo. But first, I would like to show you a little bit about Kameleo, how it works. So what you need to do is you have to start install Kameleo and start the CLI instance on your machine. I'm right now doing it from my PowerShell terminal. I can see it already started. As a result, on my computer there is a web server which is providing a REST API interface, and we can communicate with Kameleo through this interface. But for your convenience, we created wrappers around this API, and we created clients in several languages. And this time I'm going to use the Python package we have, which is available on PyPI. So I'm going to install it right now. It's probably running pretty fast, as yes, it is already installed on my computer. And if you check the documentation, which is available on our GitHub page or in our knowledge base as well, you see that you need to start Kameleo.cli, but we already did it before. So let's jump on the code. We create a Kameleo profile. How is this working? Basically, we are searching for real-life browser configurations. We are looking for Windows with Chrome this time, and we are instantiating it. Before we launch the browser, let's just stop for a quick second here. So here is a debug point. So you can see we already created a profile with so many configurations. Most of them is coming automatically from the real life configurations, so you don't need to worry about it. And as you can see, this is, for example, the latest version of Chrome. So if you start utilizing Kameleo, you won't have to focus on maintaining things. You can only focus on web scraping because we will refresh it for you in the background, and each time we will provide you the best browser fingerprint configuration in order to bypass bot detection systems. I continue running the code. It now started the browser. As you can see, this is not a regular Chromium or Chrome that was started by Playwright, but this is called Chroma. This is a custom built browser. This is shipped by our team, and this is the result of years of experimenting and fine-tuning. So this is the browser that will help you bypass the detection systems you see on the previous example. So let's jump on the question, or on the example which answers the question that was already asked, which is how to integrate Kameleo with Playwright. So this example is starting like the same as the previous one. We create the same profile and launching the profile, but instead of closing it, we also import Playwright and we connect to the existing Chroma browser over the CDP protocol. This code can be copied from the GitHub documentation as well, but this code will be also available after the demo on our GitHub, so you can search for it. And the good thing that regarding the scraping itself, you don't need to change anything. Look at these 3 lines of code. This is very much the same as in the previous one when I had only regular Playwright. So let's see in action how it works. So this time not the regular browser starts with Playwright, but one with Kameleo. Opens again the Harrods website, and instead of getting the anti-bot detection warning, we can load the page and we can start actually scraping the product from this website. So this, I hope I answered how we can utilize Kameleo with Playwright and see how you can bypass detection layers. For the rest of the demo, I would like to showcase other good things about Kameleo, other features and other important things, why it is essential to use in order to scrape a website with advanced bot detection. So the next example, we dive more into the profile configuration part. In Pierre's example, he was talking a lot about, for example, WebGL metadata. Here you can actually provide any data manually, but as I say here, I suggest you to use the automatic, so you don't need to set up actually everything, because the recommended defaults works in all the cases we know, but there is actually a chance if you want to experiment with something. The other is that you can also set up a proxy for Kameleo profile. Before I run this example, I would like to show you an issue that is happening when you are using regular Playwright with a proxy. So jump back to this example. Here we have the regular Playwright framework, and we are setting up a proxy here and visiting a WebRTC leak test website. I'm just running this code, should arrive quickly. Okay, so what we see here is we have a different IP address because we set up a proxy, but through the WebRTC IP detection API, our public IP address is leaked. As you can see, they are not matching each other. And this is already a big red flag for website. This might be the issue you got banned or you got detected while you were scraping a specific website with a proxy. So it's good to remember that it is not enough to use a rotating or a non-rotating proxy, but it is also important to focus on WebRTC detection. There are articles on our website. I don't want to deep dive into it. But let's see how this works in case of Kameleo. So basically, I have the same proxy setting here for the Kameleo browser profile. I launch the browser, should start in a second. Okay, first we stop on this WebGL site. As you can see, the values I set up manually, NVIDIA GTX is already visible here, but this might be not the most interesting part here. Let's jump one when we visit the same WebRTC leak test site. And as you can see now, the public IP address is following the proxy IP address, and there is no leak, there is nothing to worry about, and most likely you will be bypassing the anti-bot detection systems. Okay, let's jump to the next example. In the previous ones, I launched all the time Windows with Chrome profile, and I'm running Kameleo on Windows as well. And if you are going to run some other type of browsers or OS, for example, Mac OS with Safari, with this popular fingerprinting technology called canvas fingerprinting, a website can actually tell what is the host machine and the real browser that is emulating that profile. And if there is some discrepancy, the anti-bot system will stop you. But we have a solution for this called intelligent canvas spoofing, which is actually part of the recommended defaults. If you check, if you call this, you are already set to intelligent. But for showcasing, I highlighted this. We set up the intelligent canvas spoofing, and it should solve the issue. Let's see, run this code. Oh, sorry, I ran the previous one. Okay, here is some issue. Let's see what it is. On line 22, it says profile not running. Okay, this was an intentional error I made. So just wanted to showcase that Kameleo is kind of like talking to you. So if you do something wrong during development, it will tell you what is the issue. Here I try to stop profile before I actually started. If we check the terminal here, it also cannot stop profile with ID because it is not running. So what I need to do is just quickly delete this line and jump back to the demo where I will showcase the intelligent canvas spoofing. It should, yes, now it starts. And now we are visiting this site where it shows we are using a Mac OS with Safari. This is based on user agent and headers. But let's see if we visit the browser leaks canvas fingerprinting test site, what we see, and we see the right result, that it tricks the machine learning algorithms as well, and it thinks we are on a Mac device with Safari, but this is my Windows PC actually. So we already showed you 3 things that is good against anti-bot detection systems. Let's see how much time we have. Well, okay, just a quick other demo. Let's see. In the previous examples, every time Chroma, our custom-built browser, was starting. But the good news is that we have an additional custom-built browser called Jungle Fox, which is based on Firefox. And this is awesome if you would like to run Firefox profiles, because it's like a backup. If Chroma is not working somehow, it works to try with Jungle Fox. We also have a client who says if he's using Google services, he is using Firefox profiles because it just have a better success rate. As you can see, we could scrape the Harrods website that we were using Chroma in the previous example, and this is also working with our Jungle Fox. It's always good to know that there is a backup for you. Just close this. One more example how versatile are the browser configuration options. We can actually set up mobile user agents. So if you are targeting a website that is mainly for a mobile device, or you hope that you will see less CAPTCHA, because it is said that on mobile devices you face less CAPTCHA because the website developers don't want to distract you on a mobile phone. It is more difficult to solve the CAPTCHA. So you can actually set up an iOS and Safari profile, and this can all be emulated in our Chrome browser, and the whole scraping experience will be like we are on a mobile device. The website syncs, we are on iOS with Safari. Okay, last demo. I mentioned before the persistent context, which can be useful if you are scraping a website which has login, so which is behind the login wall. So despite, like in the previous examples, I'm not going to create a profile from scratch, but I'm loading an already created profile, which is stored in the profile file. It's here in my project. We are loading it, launching it, and let's see what happens. You will see that before the demo, I already created a profile and logged into Gmail or Google. And as a result, when we load the profile to Kameleo, we are already logged into Gmail and YouTube, and we can do the scraping behind the login wall. Here you can see we are logged in. Okay, I think this is enough from demo, because we are quite running out of time, and I would like to answer some questions at the end. But let me talk a little bit about performance. So on my developer PC, which is like a 7-year-old PC with an Intel Core 7th generation CPU, 16 GB RAM, I can run 20 to 25 profiles with ease. So as you are scaling up your servers, you can actually run hundreds of profiles or thousands of Kameleo profiles at the same time, and we are not limiting it. The reason is because most often it is used by enterprises, and the pricing is kind of like enterprise-ish. And we would like to support you for your smaller web scraping project. And in the future, we are going to introduce a much cheaper web scraping package where you will be able to do everything I just showed you here on this demo. But until we introduce it, we are giving you exclusively coupon code that you can use for a 90% discount. So instead of 200 euros per month, you can have it for just 20, or actually 19 euros per month. You will receive the coupon code into your email. And please note that this is a limited offer, only for 2 weeks. You can use this coupon, but this is a recurring coupon. So it's not just for the first month, it's for always. You can renew your subscription every time until we introduce the new package, which will be convenient for you. I think enough from my demo. I would like to pass back the word to Pierre. He might also have a gift for you, and probably he wants to share a couple of other things as well.
Yes, thank you, Tamas. It was so interesting to see Kameleo at work. And since you made this nice gift to our audience, I could not avoid to make a gift too. So for all the audience, here we have the second QR code is a subscription discount for the paid articles of the Web Scraping Club. So we'll have a full month of full access to all the article on the Web Scraping Clubs, including the lab articles, which are the ones that are under paywall usually. Then you can also join us to the Discord server on the first QR code. And in case the discount code doesn't work via QR code, you have also the direct link for accessing to the offer. Yes, I think it's time for a recap. For a wrap up. Yes, correct. So basically, what you have seen today, we have seen today that web scraping has changed during these years. So we need to improve our tool belt for and add new tools like anti-detect browsers to bypass all the challenges we are facing today. What kind of challenges? Well, as we have seen with Tamas, using a real browser sometimes with Playwright, sometimes it's not even enough. You need prove to provide a full, consistent fingerprint that matches a consumer-grade device. And this is what exactly Kameleo does. And we have seen the great demo with Tamas that show how to do it together with Playwright. And I think that's it. We can answer the question if you have one.
Yes, I think we already have a couple of questions, but feel free to add more because we still have some time. Before we jump on the questions, can we make another poll to ask which framework you have familiar with? So like Selenium, Puppeteer, Playwright, or whatever. So here it comes up. Yes, Scrapey, Web Unblockers, Selenium, Puppeteer, or Playwright, please vote. Okay, I already see the results. Seems like Scrapey is pretty popular, but as you can see, it is sometimes necessary to start using some headful or some browser automation tool. And I think Puppeteer is pretty not yet. I think we can share the results with the audience. So Puppeteer is not so popular, and the reason is because it have no native Python support, as I know, and you were picking Python as the main language, so I guess this is the reason. But I think Selenium and Playwright is pretty popular. I think both is very good. Playwright is a more fresh technology, but Selenium might have a bigger support. You might find more code online. Okay, as we had this poll, we already got a couple of questions. So the one is, what are your feedback on the GPU spoofing feature? I see more and more Picasso fingerprinting. Does the noise feature solve it? So basically, about Canvas and the WebGL spoofing, both is used the canvas object. Just the canvas is using the 2D context, and the WebGL is using the 3D context. Currently, the intelligent feature is only available on the 2D, but in our opinion, it is enough to use that. And my recommendation is to don't use noise on the WebGL because it might cause some interference. But we are available on support, and if you send us the website you are scraping, we can deep dive into that for you. And of course, in the future, we will support intelligent for WebGL as well. Okay, jump on another one. Can you run Kameleo inside Docker container? So currently we are only supporting Kameleo on Windows, but we designed everything to support Linux and support macOS as well. But to fully support it takes some development. As you can see in the demo, as you can see in the demo, sorry. I was using Mac device. I was emulating Mac profiles on my Windows, and it was working perfectly against the anti-bot detection system. But we need to reach or solve the same issue. So, for example, you are running on Linux or Mac OS and run it on with a Windows profile, and that should also work. And until we cannot solve it, we are not going to ship it. But the good news that probably is going to happen within 2 months with the Mac OS version. then Linux, and then Docker as well. For a workaround, I know you are enthusiast with Linux, and as I know, Pierre is also running his code on an Ubuntu. And it was also a topic on the Discord server of the Web Scraping Club, that you need actually to run Kameleo on a Windows server. You can open the port where we are exposing the local API, and you can actually run your scraper within a Docker container, but the browsers will run on the Windows server as a workaround for the next couple of months. Pierre, what is your experience? What server do you usually set up on AWS?
Yes, for the example we have written on the Web Scraping Club, if I remember correctly, we used a T3 medium instance from AWS. So I don't remember exactly how many cores it had the machine, but it was not one of the largest one, and the browser ran smoothly on that. So frankly speaking, it was a good choice, and it was not so expensive as it could be, because in the end you are I was running just a couple of windows, but I know that I could push more on the and run many others, since the experience was very fluid. There was no the machine was not start clogging when I ran multiple windows.
Oh, good to know. There is a lot of question coming regarding Docker comments, or Docker is very important for Kubernetes deployment and auto scaling. Yes, we know it is important, and as so many of you is actually writing it, we will focus in it in the near future. But I really would like to encourage you to try Kameleo with the setup Pierre just mentioned, because it really worth a try. You will see how fluent, how you can reduce maintenance costs, and by the time you get familiar with Kameleo and you start really loving it, we will try to support it not only in macOS, Linux, but also as well in Docker. Let's jump on another question. Where do you get the lines for profiles, for example, equipment, WebGL, etc.? Do you generate them randomly, or do you buy or collect data from real users? So we are totally not generating them randomly, because that will cause inconsistency in the profiles. We are monitoring the whole, we are monitoring traffic on the web, and we are filtering it, and we are creating code-based profiles, or like these real-based browser fingerprint configurations based on that data. This is a very big system. This is a result of years of development. And I encourage you that this is a value that you receive if you start using Kameleo, that you won't have to focus on collecting it yourself, maintaining it yourself, because it just simply works each time you run Kameleo. And it's not just the user agent. There are several parameters, like in the question was mentioning WebGL and stuff. In this example, when I had the customization, here I was setting up WebGL metadata manually. But actually, if I omit this whole line, as you can see, WebGL meta is set to automatic, and this is perfect because the data will derive from the actual database we have, and it will be consistent to other parts of the browser fingerprint. I hope it was a clear explanation. Okay, does Kameleo work headless as well? Does it perform the same as the headful option? This is why I opened this getting started guide. We mentioned the headless support. It is possible to run our browsers in headless, but this is not fully tested yet, and we cannot confirm that it has the same results as the headful option. I ask you to do some experimenting, but this is on our roadmap. In the second half of the year, we will focus on it because we would like to see resources for you. And this is probably necessary to enable Kameleo run on Docker as well. So it might be some journey. You can try it, especially with the Jungle Fox, because I tried it and it was working on some websites, but we haven't run the full test yet on all the sites on the antibot detection systems yet. Let's see if we have another question. Okay, so can I change the proxy while a profile is running? So let's jump on quickly on GitHub. In the documentation, you can find several examples for all supported programming languages. I just open up the Python one. Here is the update profile. So basically, what you can do is you can update the profile when it is not running. So what you can do, you start it, you run it, then you stop it, and then you update the proxy settings. What you can actually do is, if you are having some rotating proxies, you can actually change the IP during the browser is open, but this is something I'm not recommending. We designed Kameleo that so one browser should be emulating one Kameleo virtual browser profile and should have one IP address. In this demo, I was not showcasing this too much, but there is this session duration parameter in the username field, which forces the proxy I use to provide me the same IP address for 30 minutes during my session. I think you should keep with this setup in order to prevent any suspicious activity. Just think about a real user. His IP is not changing from one moment to the other, but instead of it is the same for the session he does. And with Kameleo and with this virtual browser profile system, we would like to copy this same behavior. Okay, we got another question. How do we run this in the cloud, like AWS or GCP machines? Pierre, do you want to answer this, or should I go with?
Oh, I can, since it's pretty straightforward. So what he did was to create, to launch a Windows machine image, and then install Kameleo on the machine. Open the needed ports to communicate with my scraper, and then as I finished, I create an image from that configuration, that machine configuration, so I can relaunch many machines with the same configuration of Kameleo in case I need it. And that's it. It's quite straightforward. I did it on AWS. I think that more or less the same process can be done on GCP.
Okay, we got a comment that we should stack Scrapoxy behind Kameleo. So basically, I have one comment on it. Kameleo is compatible with any proxy. It can be HTTP, HTTPS, SOX 5. It can even be an SSH proxy. But one thing you should, so it is designed, what I just mentioned before, that keep the same IP address for the session. I think this is mandatory. So if you would like to rotate your IP or change the IP, I don't know how Scrapbox exactly works, but it might change the proxy sometimes. In my opinion, then it is mandatory to have a new session. I cannot say any bad example against it, but this this is more like a real life person's behavior. Okay, I've got another question. How can we run older Chrome versions? So basically, in my recommendation is that you should always stick with the latest versions. The reason is because Chrome or browsers are called evergreen. They are updating themselves. Chrome is shipping a new version every 4 weeks. So I have a playground here. Project where I do the searching for Chrome profiles. I will place a debug point here, and we will see that here is this base profiles list. These are so every time you search for configurations, you get back 25 browser configurations. And the first 10 from the list are always the latest version of Chrome. So for example, this time it's 123. But if you go for other versions or lower indexes, you will see like 120 or 122, and you can search them and choose one that is ideal for you. But as I said, this is not perfectly emulating the behavior of a real life user, because most real life person actually updating the browser, and if it is not updated, it might be already something that the antibot detection system sees. In a previous example, I was showing you the reusing, when we were reusing profiles, so we had persistent contexts. So if you are having a browser profile you are using over the time, it is also useful that you can, for example, harvest cookies. You can build some history for the profile, and that will create more trust towards the target websites. And like if you created a profile like 1 year ago and it is on an older version of Chrome, you can simply tell that you would like to upgrade the profile, which will upgrade it to the latest Chrome version. So it will be similar behavior as a real person's behavior is. Okay, I hope I answered this one as well. Does Kameleo provide a dashboard as well where you can monitor the usage of traffic? No, I'm not sure what you would like to achieve here. We are not monitoring the traffic use. Everything is running on your device. There is nothing is limited based on the bandwidth or data traffic. But with the frameworks you can use with Kameleo, so Selenium, Puppeteer, Playwright, you can actually intersect the requests and you can monitor them if this is what you would like to do. Okay, yeah, I don't see any more questions. I think we can say goodbye to the audience. Do you have anything, Pierre, that you would like to add?
I just wanted to thank you because it was such an interesting perspective on Kameleo and anti-attack browsers in general. So I think we learned a bit something today.
Thank you everybody for joining, and please check your inbox because we will send out you the coupon code, also the gift that Pierre is providing. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Pierre, for being here with us and sharing your big experience through this webinar and with your club.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Thank you again for inviting me. Bye.
Bye bye.